Hello students, Michael Sanchez, violin teacher here. Hope you guys are having a good day or evening. So for this class, we're actually going to be talking about how to play a song. This is a church music webinar that I hold every week on Tuesday evenings at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. And the song that I chose to learn today is the Battle Hymn of the Republic. So this is a good church piece that has some dotted eighth notes as well as sixteenths. So we're going to talk about some rhythm stuff today and give you guys hopefully an assignment of something to work on. So to start, before we actually play the piece, I want to show you guys some scale resources, as I really like to start any lesson with scales. So if you guys go to Google and just type in violin scales, the second listing that comes up is the shop.theviolincase.com. It's a really good resource to work on our scales. And I like it how they break it down into 1, 2, and 3 octaves. So being that the Battle Hymn of the Republic is in the key of C major, I'm going to suggest that we work on the C major scale in 2 octaves. So here's the scale. So let me just kind of go through this and give you guys an assignment. So as you can see, there's a first number 1 that's over the D right here. That's a really good spot to shift as far as going into third position. So if you guys have not shifted yet, it's kind of a new thing. This might be a time to start learning it. So basically what you're doing is from here to here, you're playing in first position, which is basically third finger on the G string. You're playing low second fingers. And then for this note, we're shifting up into third position where we normally would put our third finger. And then we're going up the scale. This third finger in third is going to touch the second finger. So this is all on the A string in third. And then these 3 notes are going to be on the E string in third position. Like that. Okay, and then coming back down, we're going to follow the E string and then shift down to first position right here. And that brings us down into first, which you guys should all understand how to do, I hope. Okay, let me play through the C major scale. Hopefully you guys have your instruments. You guys can warm up and play along. Very good. And what I recommend is that you guys play fourth fingers coming down especially. What I find is that students don't work on fourth finger practice enough, and scales is a good time to do it. So I suggest a low 1 right there and then a fourth finger to follow, which if you're set up properly with your hand position, you should be able to play these 2 notes in tune. You might want to check with your tuner to make sure that they are in tune. But basically those are kind of extreme notes. You get a low 1 and then a 4. So if you're not able to reach those in tune, you might be kind of not in the right position with your hand. So that's a good indicator right there. All right, so I recommend maybe just going to there. You guys certainly can continue going on to the next part of that if you'd like, which is basically playing every other note. But I definitely think you should at least go to there. And that's a great way to practice fundamentals and technique before you actually practice your piece. Awesome. So let's go ahead and go on to our piece now. So, and if you're viewing this after the class was live, you should be able to see the link to the music to the right of the video. That should be where I put it. So that should be how you guys are able to access this particular resource. Okay, so the Battle Hymn of the Republic is in the key of C. So after playing the scale, you should start to feel comfortable with the finger placements. The biggest thing is that making sure that your second fingers are low, meaning that they should be touching your first fingers. So there's quite a few low twos. That's a C natural. This symbol that I'm about to do here, this is an indicator of a half step, which means that the first and second fingers should be touching. You should feel the 1 and 2 touching in that particular spot right here. And then I suggest using fourth fingers. Here's another low 2, low second finger. It's quite a few of them actually. Here's a fourth finger spot. And the purpose for using fourth fingers is that we want to avoid crossing strings when not necessary. So if you played open E here, that would cause you to cross strings unnecessarily, which is not as efficient as just playing 4. The other reason for using 4 is that you can vibrato a fourth finger where you can't vibrato an open string. Raise your hand if that makes sense. All right, it's also my way of making sure everybody's paying attention. So yeah, we have about 7 people in the class right now. I hope you guys consider joining our webinars, as anybody here can ask questions throughout this class, and also students can see me during the class if they're here live. Okay, so I'm putting in all these arrows of low second fingers, as that's very commonly out of tune. You guys know the song, I'm guessing, so that also helps. But many F naturals, many C naturals in here. So 4 and low 2 as well there. And yeah, here it's a really common place where you guys might be out of tune, because you have the extreme fourth finger and then the low 2. That's a very common place for students to be out of tune. All right, so let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to play it slow the first time, and then I'll play it more up to speed for you guys. By the way, I didn't mark this in here. I would suggest starting this piece up bow, because it's basically a pickup note, which means a note before the first full measure starts. Typically those notes are up bow. Alright, so some things I would recommend is that you guys use lots of vibrato as much as you can on long notes, even fourth fingers. It's okay to do open here, by the way. But yeah, anytime that you can vibrato a note, I think it's really good. And longer notes are easier to do it on. So one thing that's tricky, that's different from this arrangement, is that they actually flip-flop the dotted 8th, 16th rhythm. So this rhythm right here, actually before I do that, I'm going to do a screenshot so I can send it to you guys and post it on the site. One moment here. But yeah, the dotted 8th note is maybe a rhythm you guys haven't seen before. But basically, the dotted eighth note is, if you combine it with the 16th note, it's a total of 1 beat. So this whole thing right here is the same equivalent as a quarter note. But basically what it is, it's a note that's heavily weighing more on the side of the first note. I consider it 3 16th notes and 1 16th note. So if I was to count this, it would be 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 1 ba 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 bum bum. Okay. So what they do here though is they flip it around to where the 16th note's at the beginning and then the dotted eighths at the end. So it's flipped around, which makes it a little bit tricky. And then right after that, they put it back to normal. So this could be an easily missed counting measure. So what I would suggest is that you guys count this a certain way, and maybe even clap it, as clapping it's going to give you guys the ability to really make sure you're playing this rhythm properly. So I'm going to basically separate this whole entire passage into 16th notes. This is called subdividing. This is a really good way to make sure that you're counting the rhythm properly. 1 3. It's something that I write about in my Fiddle for Dummies book in detail. Some people really like the way that I approach counting. Okay, so what I just did is I subdivided every one of the rhythms into 16ths. So the first note, instead of just being 1 beat, which is what it is if you're counting in quarter notes, it's 4. Okay? Instead of this being 0.75 beats, which I can't really count to 0.75, I don't know about you, it's actually 3. Instead of this being 0.25 beats, this is 1. Notice that everything is being multiplied by 4, if you guys like math. An eighth note's normally 0.5 or half. Whoops. But if I had multiplied it by 4, it's 2. So basically what I'm doing is I'm providing myself the ability to count every single note without a decimal. Okay? Raise your hand if that makes sense. By subdividing into non-decimals, I'm able to really spell out, or properly count, I should say, every single note to where it makes sense to me. Okay, so I'm actually going to do this out loud. If you guys want to do it with me, you can. I'm going to clap while subdividing sixteenths. So it's going to be 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2. Okay, so what I did is I'm basically, if I had a metronome going, it'd be clicking at this rate. That would be about 200, 240, somewhere in that range. That's my 16th note clicker. Okay, so I'm basically counting every one of those notes, the number of clicks that I just showed you guys. So this would be 4 clicks, right? That would be the first beat. The second note is 3. It'd be like that. Okay, so it would basically be 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 1 2 3 1 2 3 2 3 4 2 2. So if I didn't understand how to play this properly, that's exactly the way that I would be counting it in my head until I really grasped the way it should sound. Now a lot of you guys just know this song, so that kind of helps, but hopefully that actually helps you to understand kind of dissecting the rhythm of this particular piece. So anytime you see these particular rhythms, which many of you guys would get kind of scared of normally, always be thinking of them as 3s and 1s when they come up. Does that make sense, guys? Raise your hand if that makes sense. Cool. All right, so why don't I go ahead and play it a little bit faster this time, and then I'll take any questions you guys have. So feel free to kind of formulate your questions at this time, and then I'll be able to answer them here in just a moment. All right, so that's the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Great. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Meg asked if you should put any slurs in anywhere. Thanks for that question. You know, this piece is kind of played without many slurs. That's a great question. There's really just a few spots I would say you could possibly put them in. Being that this is kind of more of a classical violin class, though, I'm not going to maybe add as much stuff as I would like in a fiddle class. Fiddle classes are very much, you know, adding an improvisation and ornamentation and all this stuff to basically change the way the song is on the page. For this, I would just suggest kind of going with what's there. The one thing that you might have to do that's going to be tricky in some ways is that you have to kind of stay in the same part of the bow as you're progressing through these. But if you kind of are having the same speed of the bow going back and forth, you're going to kind of get stuck maybe towards the frog because one of the notes is longer than the second one, right? If you're playing the same speed with your bow, one's going to kind of be more prominent than the other. It's going to make it to where you're going to get stuck kind of in quicksand, I call it, like your bow is going to gradually get towards one part of the bow or the other. So what you have to do is just kind of even lift your bow up a little bit and stay within a certain area as you're doing that part. So as I'm doing that, my upstroke is a little bit faster than my downstroke, and I'm kind of lifting the bow off the strings to kind of stay in a certain parameter, a certain area. Hope that makes sense. All right, any other questions? Awesome. All right, so I highly recommend you guys work on the C major scale this week and work on the Battle Hymn of the Republic, trying to get the rhythm down. I highly recommend using a metronome. Again, I would set the metronome between like 200 and 240. Not that that's really fast. That's going to be considered our 16th note, so that we can really dissect parts of this piece that are, I think, easily not counted properly. So especially at least for the first half of it, I would say would be really useful to use the metronome. Then I would suggest just really trying to get your tone to a certain point by using your small muscles in the hand, bow hand, bending the wrists, just trying to achieve proper sound. You know, I would suggest maybe playing along with me with the recording, maybe with the slow recording, matching your notes, make sure they're in tune. And then, yeah, if you guys want to try it with the faster recording, that'd be cool too. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the class. I'm going to kind of hang out with the people that are here right now and maybe just take a few more additional questions. But for those that are watching after here on the site, I encourage you guys to get into the webinars and join us for a future class. Thanks so much for joining us.